Good morning, good evening to all of our viewers across the world. Today we have another special guest with us, Vincent Genna, and we're going to talk about some very interesting things, particularly about psychic abilities and crossing over, talking to the other side and people who have crossed over. So let's get right into it. Vincent, how are you?
I'm doing great today, and thank you for having me on the show. I'm always excited to do shows like this.
Thank you for being on with us. Actually, I think the pleasure's all ours. And where are you at right now? You're on the East Coast, right?
Yes, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's my home base at this point.
Very nice, very nice. And so let's jump right into it. When did you get started with basically this type of work? What were some of the premonitions, some of the interactions that you had with the other side or with the subtle forces of the universe that led you into basically the work that you do today?
Did you just say subtle forces of the universe? There is no such thing as subtle in this universe. If it's going to smack you in the head, it's going to smack you in the head. And that's exactly what happened to me, quite honestly, Joe. Back when I was 28 years old and I had my spiritual awakening and download and ascension, whatever you want to call it, it just all happened to me. Prior to that, I was a professional actor, singer, dancer, wanted to do stage, movies, theater, all of that type of stuff. And this came around, and this psychic ability started within me first. It started opening up the doors to my understanding the past, the present, and the future, with
Interesting.
all of this information just downloading and downloading and awakening inside of me. And as I was doing readings as a psychic, because that's the avenue I went to first.
Hmm.
I was doing that part time, and slowly but surely, all of a sudden, I started seeing dead people.
Wow.
And it wasn't so clear as day. You know, a lot of people think that a medium or anybody with these types of gifts winds up seeing somebody who stands in front of them, just like I'm seeing you right now, or so
Right.
like somebody is actually present. It's usually a silhouette, a see-through figure, translucent, transparent. It's not solid, you know. So
Hmm.
when I started to experience this, I thought, I mean, here I am being psychic, right? And I'm an actor and singer and dancer. When the mediumship started with me, then I really started thinking I was going crazy, or I was just, making this stuff up.
Right.
But it just got too strong. And the more attention I gave it, the stronger it became. And
Interesting.
so over the years, it developed into a form now that I can use and depend on
Hmm.
to use and make contact with the other side in order to help people. That's my primary reason for even using my psychic and medium ability, is to get messages to people to transform their lives. And originally, with my mediumship, I was just allowing the messages to come in. Yes, I'd see grandma, dad, mom,
Hmm.
friends,
Hmm.
old lover, old boyfriends from high school. They would come to me, particularly with the messages. But recently, I went over to England to study it more, advanced mediumship. And so my mediumship went crazy, went
Wow.
skyrocketing. Yes, evidential mediumship is what they call it.
Evidential mediumship?
Yes, completely different than over here in the US. Over here in the US, you just get a medium up and say, "Ah, I see Grandma and Uncle Joe, and yeah, and you have Uncle Joe's diamond ring, and yeah," and so there's some evidence that we give. Over there in England, because they've been practicing this and using this skill since the beginning of England, they
Hmm.
really revered these skills and honored them, and even formed a religion. The spiritualist religious movement is based on mediumship, and honored it so much that they believe that you don't give information to the person until you can get 5 or 6 pieces of true evidence
Hmm. Hmm.
from this spirit, so that the person you're speaking with knows that this spirit must be here. Otherwise, you're not getting it. So I don't get it as a psychic.
Right.
I get information directed to me by the spirit itself.
That's phenomenal. That's actually very, very amazing. And something that crossed my mind just now, let me ask you, did you ever encounter any very negative forces trying to communicate malicious information to you?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
know. There's people out there that say that's exactly what can happen. And quite honestly, it can happen, but with the weaker people.
With the weaker.
I believe that my mediumship came secondary to avoid that particularly.
Hmm.
So I grew very positively. I took care of my issues as a person, a
Hmm.
human being, and as I did
Mm.
that and took a spiritual path, not only did my life become stronger as a person, but my spiritual understandings grew and my insight was even stronger, and I became naturally protected against all those negative and supposed negative forces out there. So no malicious entity can even approach me
Good.
unless I allow them to in my attempt to help them. And believe me, I've been brought to certain areas around the country to heal places of hauntings and with malicious spirits in them. And
Hmm.
I literally had regular conversation like I'm talking to you right now because they're troubled also.
Right.
There are troubled sisters and brothers, and everybody wants to think they come from the devil. Well, there is no devil.
Right.
Bottom line. And the Pope finally admitted that, by the way. There's no devil and there's no hell. He said they were all metaphors.
Right. In like the
Okay.
1200s, they made him up, right? Around there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. And so, if you're having compassion for anybody who's hurt, they're going to treat you differently. So,
Hmm.
no, nobody ever tries to hurt me, and I absolutely get nothing malicious or false
Right.
either.
Compassion is the key, then, huh?
It totally is compassion and love. That heals everybody. Your worst enemy, that is the reason why our spiritual leaders, like Jesus himself said, dine with your enemies. Why dine with your enemies? Does that mean that as you're sitting down to dinner, you've got the gun on the lap, he's got the gun on the lap, and you're just going to eat dinner and then get up and go?
Right.
No, when you break bread with somebody, it puts you on a different level, right? You're sitting around that table. Now, all of a sudden, as you're breaking bread, you find out you have more in common than you have that's opposing. And so that person who you thought to be your enemy, you transform them into a friend or a family or at least somebody you can get along with. So it
Right.
changes your perspective of that enemy.
Right. Absolutely. Now, when you said you can see the people, you can, so you see actually apparitions, or you see more like shadow people type, or what is it exactly that you see? What is the gamut of entities that you see when
Yeah.
you can communicate with them?
Well, I am clairvoyant,
Okay.
clairaudio, clairsentient, clair everything. I'm clairall.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good
I just
thing.
did
That's
a
a good thing.
commercial. I just did a commercial when I used to use hair dye to get rid of my gray. I could have done that. I'm clairall. Isn't that fun? Oh,
Clairol. See, that's a good
I'm
good brand you should
clairall.
make up.
Yes, exactly.
Vincent Genna's
Um,
Clairol.
Clairol, yes. So I will see, but what's interesting is to the degree and the level that they allow me to see them. Now, I do have to say this. All right. I don't know how most other mediums feel, but
Hmm.
when I see an entity, yes, I know and I'm feeling and I believe it's there, but there's still that tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of me that in free will can say, well, maybe this isn't possible.
Hmm.
Maybe this isn't real.
Hmm.
Okay. And so it still allows for that free will to choose to believe.
Hmm.
And I believe that entities, especially if they're guides, will never, ever, ever manifest themselves any stronger than that to take away from that free will and the doubt. So,
Hmm.
in other
Hmm.
words, if a spirit like on TV just popped in right in front of you, absolutely popped in, and started preparing dinner for you and cooked for you, it would take away your doubt
Right.
that you may be making this up or maybe it's really not real, right?
Right.
And so it would be an absolute. Now it turned, oh, well, there's absolutely life on the other side. There is absolutely life after death. We don't want to have absolutes because we don't grow on absolutes.
Right.
We grow on our choices from our choices.
Right.
If we followed everything absolutely, that's how we get ourselves in trouble. So I don't see them totally clearly, but honestly, I have a dear friend who's on the other side, and he has come to me, and he mostly comes solid to me in my dreams
Mm-hmm.
because he knows if he appeared on the couch, I'd love to be sit next to him and talk to him again. But if he appeared on my couch as this solid being, I'd probably pass out, or at least I'd go through an entire box of Depends.
Right, right.
I just can't deal with it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see through them. So they are cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they are shadows and lights.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time they're in my mind's eye.
Right.
So if somebody
Okay.
is sitting in front of me or I'm doing an event and I'm starting to describe the appearance of the person, I'm seeing the person in my mind's eye,
Mm-hmm.
not with my human eyes.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, what about this? Another question that crossed my mind while you were saying all this is where exactly do those spirits, I guess, reside and then manifest when they're thought about or called upon? From that point, where do they exactly reside?
Through Skype. No.
Can we get a spirit on right now when we're talking?
We could get a spirit on right now.
Do you have their
No,
contact? Because I don't.
no. Wouldn't that be real easy? And actually, they can come through electronically.
Right, I've heard that
There's many
before.
a times that I've been in an interview and somebody's trying to communicate with me, and it actually interferes in the broadcast. Where are the dimensions? They're all
Right.
dimensions. Edgar Casey material, which is what I have my foundation in after I had my awakening,
Phenomenal
talks
work.
about there being 22 dimensions, the God force being actually the 22nd dimension.
Interesting.
And our job or our desire is to evolve through each dimension to the 22nd dimension. Okay? The earthly dimensions we try to bypass once our physical bodies die and we transcend. We actually go through a tunnel of light to bypass the fourth, fifth, sixth, possibly the seventh dimensions, which are more attached to the earth plane, so that we can now go to the dimensions of the heavenly plane. Now, I don't know what they look like. I don't know where they are. They're, what is space? What is a black
Right.
hole? I believe that the black holes are the actual openings to other dimensions. Okay,
Right.
that you will actually appear someplace else. It's not like a travel. That you can go to from here to Mars to the moon to Saturn. You actually now leave this particular dimension and go into another dimension. So the word itself is very ambiguous.
Right.
Dimension. What the heck is a dimension?
Exactly.
The only dimensions I know is my waist and how big that keeps getting.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Those dimensions, but what is true is
Right.
that everything is connected together.
Right.
So we may have different dimensions, but everything is going on at the same time and connected all together. So wherever the spirits are, and remember, a lot of people think, and this is including even some of the English mediums, that once you've had a life right here on earth, that soul maintains that life in the other dimensions. And that's actually not true. Because here's the thing about all incarnated lives. They're aspects of the original soul that the God force created. So we are not Vincent alone, Joe alone, anybody else alone in this life. That's not who you really are. That's just a portion of who you really are. So once we get to the other side, our job then is to assess all the portions, all the lifetimes of who we are, see what else we want to or need to remember, grow, learn, experience. And that's what helps us to decide our next incarnation. But eventually, we pull it all together and we come back to the original form that we were created in to start with. In fact, in the book of Revelation, it actually states in there, Jesus says it, that eventually man, meaning mankind, will overcome the earth and never leave the heavenly dimensions. So I do believe that we will be done incarnating in this physical planet. And a matter of fact, there is a part of me that believes we weren't meant to incarnate physically here to start with, that we just got caught up in the physicality of this world and then created a means to live here, but
Right.
we weren't meant to do that. Once we did it to start with, we created a karma that we have to heal and cleanse in order for us to move on and beyond the earth.
Absolutely.
So it's all part of everything. So the moment that I'm in communication with someone, a spirit for that person, a loved one, a guide is getting vibrations that a communication is going on, a link is being made, and they can either willingly come down by themselves, or I can invoke them and ask them to come down. And so that's how I wind up making communication. But the moment you speak or think, even before you speak, that vibration is already out there in the universe and in the other dimensions, hitting all these spirits. That's why grief is actually just as hard for spirits as it is for humans, because they feel that negative, draining feeling. And so we were inspired to write poems like "Don't Cry for Me. I'm not dead. I'm on the other side." Well, what we're really saying is, for God's sakes, would you get over missing me, because you're bringing me down, man.
Right.
I'm over here trying to enjoy myself, and all of a sudden I'm getting this feeling of, oh my God, you missed me again. Move on. You know what I'm saying? Not that cold and callous, but it can be. But it can
From
be.
a compassionate way, from a compassionate light.
Yes, from a compassionate standpoint. And one of the other things we don't understand is, just because you're on the other side doesn't make things hunky-dory either. They're emotionally distressed and working through that because of the pains that they may have caused down here, especially they're leaving loved ones that they may have abused or hurt. They drove drunk and they killed an entire family. They're on the other side feeling guilty and bad about that too. So they've got to work through that as well. And they can be drawn back to the earth way too soon, way before they're meant to, just by us calling upon them.
Oh, wow.
So I really respect mediumship and the way I'm going to use it. I am not going to just bring down your mom because you need to know she really loved you, or you want to know why she left all the inheritance to your damn sister instead of you. You know? That I don't do it for that reason, because I won't bother them on the other side for that.
Do people that have crossed over know that they have crossed over? Can they look at the earthly realm and say, wow, I'm not there anymore, I'm here?
It actually takes a little bit for them to understand that. Have you ever seen the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr.?
It's a great movie.
That is actually a perfect movie to explain the other side. Death is exactly what you expect it to be until you finally accept what it really is. And the other planes and dimensions are exactly what you expect them to be until you understand what it really is. So, you know, without giving away the movie, that's what the movie was about once Robin Williams died, right? You know, he saw everything as a painting because he was so close to his wife, who was a painter, that he had to grow on the other side a little bit before he could see what it really was.
Wow.
And so that's what hell is. Hell is exactly, you will create hell here or there, to exactly what you expect it to be, based on your emotions, based on the pains you take with you, until you can release that and let it go. So you can release it and let it go here, just the same as you can release and let it go on the other side.
I have a tangent question. You mentioned that Edgar Cayce said that there were 22 realms, or dimensions, as we said. Dimensions is kind of an ambiguous word, which I agree with you. But do you think that those 22 dimensions or realms have anything to do with the 22 Hebrew letters, by any chance?
I believe they're all connected together. Okay. Everything is, I'm glad you brought that up. Everything is symbolic in this physical world. And nothing, here's the funny thing is, Joe, we cannot come up with anything. We can't think anything, create anything, imagine anything that hasn't already been created or that is not true.
Of course.
Everything we think of has already been there. That's why we can think of it.
Right.
So it's all related and all connected together. And anything we do come up with over here is to always help us and remind us of who we are. That's what astrology is. It's always a blueprint. Sacred geometry. It's always about that understanding so that it can remind us who we are. But yes, great point to bring up. You're absolutely right.
I agree with you. I think anything that we've already we think about, or a quote unquote revelation that we come up with, it's something that we merely tapped into by virtue of our brain that already existed and always will exist. So I think that's an excellent point you brought up.
Yeah, Plato back in ancient Greece was the one who brought up the concept of forms. He knew that.
Right.
We had such great spiritual guides and masters who they didn't develop these ideas. We give them credit for developing them. No, they just woke up earlier than we did and remembered earlier. And every so often we needed that guidance, because could you imagine being down here on Earth the way it's going right now without any reminders that we're spiritual beings? It would be more chaotic, and there'd be more anarchy going on here than Sons of Anarchy television series. You know what I mean?
Right.
God, forget it. Then Trump would have been president a long time ago, and every single person following him would have been just as ignorant.
Amazing ideas, huh?
Yeah, totally. So you see, that's the only type of thing that scares me and proves that there is even that type of stuff in the other dimension. Because I just said that the only reason why you can even come up with something, that you can come up with hatred, that you can come up with bigotry and ignorance, is because it's there. It's been there. It's part of how we evolved and what we evolved through. Just some of us are still in gorilla form and don't evolve as well as everybody else. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So I wanted to switch the pace a little bit. I know that you help people recover from sexual abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse. What's your take on that, and how that is incorporated into the mediumship work that you do?
Wow. So one of the reasons why I help them with that is because of what I had been through. I had been sexually abused. I had been physically abused from early on in my childhood all the way up until I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yes, my school peers did nothing but chase me, beat me up, shove me in lockers, flushed my head in toilets, threw me in dumpsters, peed on me, spit on me. And then when I got home, because mom had mental disorders, she had me beat by my father all the time. She used to hit me with spoons and pots and pans and whatever she had in her hand. And then my babysitter, who I was related to, sexually abused me until I was 13. And then the parish priest, who was taking care of mom, sexually molested me. Okay. So there was a whole big news article about that, about the Catholic Church and the Vatican hiding all of that. So I was one of those tormented and molested people. I know what it is to be in pain, and I know how to evolve from it. And so I'm an expert in that area, having been through it myself and having evolved to here. Now, on a psychological level, and just taking it from a psychological level, we can evolve from our pains, though we will have scars, and the scars will get in the way at times. From a spiritual level, okay, there I know, and I'm not speaking for everybody else who was sexually abused or hurt or molested, that I chose my path completely, and I chose my perpetrators on the other side before I got here to help me become the spiritual teacher I am today. Think of the things and the lessons we take on while we're here. A very simple example of that is when people go to college right? And they want to gain a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Some want a simple degree, and they just take communications maybe and breeze through college just to be able to get a degree.
Right.
Others are so gung-ho, they're going to double major,
Mm.
triple major. Instead of taking 15 credits a semester, they're going to take 20 credits to get it done sooner. I can get it done in a year and a half. They
Right.
take on all this extra lessons and classes that beat the hell out of them while they're going through it. And some that thought that they could handle it, they can't handle it, they drop out, they don't even use their degree. Others do make it through.
Right.
If we would make those choices down here in a limited world, what do we choose for ourselves when we're on the other side and we feeling completely unlimited?
Mm-hmm.
We will take on those extra torments and burdens, thinking it's going to help us, hoping that it gets us to the degree and the place we want to be at. So I know when my mom was dying, and even though my parents tormented me, by the way, Joe, my wife and I built a home to move them in with us so that we can take care of them until they died. Mom had Alzheimer's, dad had dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And I was healed of the scars and the pains that mom and dad caused, so I was able to take that on without it burdening me. And so
Do you think you were healed because you embraced the challenge and then you actually helped your parents in the end when most people may have not actually done that because of the abuse they caused on you? Do you think that helped actually heal?
You cannot give of yourself to help truly without it affecting you unless you take care of your own issues. And then the compassion and the love came out, so that I can handle them. Now, other children do take care of their parents, but are completely burdened by it, are completely distressed by it, and they're only taking care of them because they're still trying to find out if mommy and daddy really love them. And that's why they take on that extra burden. I didn't need that, and that's why my wife and I had the strength to take care of them. But while I was taking care of them, it was very interesting. A spiritual teacher friend of mine and I were having a conversation about my mom one day and brought up what I didn't think about before. Now, I believe that I set this all up for me, but I didn't think this aspect that she said to me. She said, Vinny, can you imagine how much the soul of your mother would have had to have loved you to agree to go along with your plan to have her come down and incarnate as your mother, but instead of being the loving, nurturing mother that everybody would expect, that she would be one of your major tormentors in order for you to get to the place you want to be? Can you imagine how much she would have had to love you to agree to that? And I'm sitting there going, you know what? That is the only level I didn't think of yet. Yes, the same place. Can you imagine how much Judas had to love Jesus to go down with him and incarnate to be the one that would turn Jesus in, to betray him and be hated for the rest of humanity on earth, right? Knowing that this is what Jesus wanted and needed. And so when I looked at it and put it in that perspective, how many other of our tormentors have agreed to do that with us so that we could grow, so that we could evolve?
Right.
I'm going to tell you a quick story, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Had the chance to work with Scarlett Lewis, who is a mother of one of the children from the Sandy Hook shooting that was killed.
Okay.
Okay, we spoke together at an event, and she knows that her son must have known that this was happening because at 6 years old, he was leaving signs behind that this was all part of a plan. 2 weeks after he died, his school teacher gave the mom his work, and in it was a drawing in art class where there's a little boy angel with angel wings on, and he's standing next to this male stick figure with a gun in his hand pointed at the little boy.
Wow.
Okay. Now, here's the interesting part. At the bottom of the base of the stick figure man was a box with another drawing in it that was examined by an anthropologist who said that is a symbol, an ancient symbol that means sacrifice.
Wow.
And but here's the thing beyond it. While she's showing this picture as mom, she believed that this was part of a plan and that little Scotty was meant to be the sacrifice, and the children were a sacrifice to get a new movement going about love. So mom goes around and teaches about choosing love over anger and hatred. But while she was showing the picture, I got another message. The symbol wasn't on the little boy angel. The symbol was on the perpetrator. And I come to realize, wait a minute. If this is part of the plan, then Adam, who was the boy who killed everybody, he sacrificed his life to be the perpetrator. So that way there would be a movement that would come because he would be the one that everybody would be hating now, right? Not
Right.
children. So he, like Judas, was the perpetrator. So when she saw that, she went, "Oh my God, that is even more meaningful," and all the things that her son wrote and talked about before his death made sense.
Right.
That morning, he wrote on a chalkboard, and it's the name of her book, "Nurture, Healing, Love," which is the definition of compassion. And he never used those words before, but on the chalkboard before he left that morning, he wrote nurture, healing, love. That wasn't the vernacular that he ever used. And so she knew this was part of a plan. And in actuality, it was the first incidents that happened in the United States that parents formed a coalition for something rather than against something. Like Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Right.
There was anger involved in that. Well, these parents got together not to be angry at what happened, but to now go around teaching about love, for love instead of hatred. And so it was one of the first positive movements that came out of such a trauma and traumatic incident. So that goes to show you that some of the perpetrators in our lives may be here to help us.
Absolutely. Do you think that everybody has a specific role? If we can loosely use the terms as a protagonist and antagonist. So do you think when people come down here, we all kind of play those roles according to each other in certain degrees so that we can evolve?
I believe that a large portion of it is soul contract. But I also believe because of the way the world has been going, that we can get caught up in somebody else's game and somebody else's negativity and go to places that we're not meant to go to. With all the suffering that's going on the earth today, I don't believe it was meant to be or even chosen prior. There's way too much. And if we did choose it all, then we're being very foolish because pain pushes us away from the God force, away from growth, not towards it. So I don't believe that suffering automatically procures growth. I believe that the more we suffer, the more we forget who we are. And so it's unnecessary, especially at this time in our existence. We're over 11,000 years old on this earth. We don't need, and there is no other type of suffering that we haven't experienced that we need to experience.
Right.
So we need to break the patterns because I think it's taking way too long because that's why it's starting to affect the earth.
How does somebody know if they're on the right path or the wrong path in terms of their own personal conscious evolution?
By the outcome of their lives. We all come here to experience ourselves, and the way we do that is by choosing dreams and purposes. If you don't know your dream and purpose, then you know you're not growing. That's number one.
Right.
If you know your dream and purpose but can't achieve it, then you're still not growing because you've not learned how to believe in yourself, how to believe in that dream, how to go after it. So whatever lack we have in our lives is because of what you're believing in yourself. And so that will tell you right away if you're evolving. Are you achieving your dreams? Do you have a wonderful life? My wife and I have incredible lives. Ever since my awakening, we've been following that path. Our children are beautiful. We don't have diseases and horrible illnesses that we're dealing with. We don't have situations and crises going on in our lives all the time. Those are all the signs as to whether you're on your path or you're off your path. We're both Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. And when you're on the path, you're using the Force and on behalf of you and others. When you're off the path, you're using the Force against yourself and against others. So that's the easiest way to figure out whether you're evolving or not.
Right, and that's ironic because that's what you're saying exactly. Is I believe in you. So that's kind of like the first and foremost step, really, to being on the path is believing in yourself.
Actually, that is not a step. That is actually the process that allows everything you attempt to work. See, most of my work is about self-belief, and I separate it from everything else because there's some great teachers out there that give you all the steps. Matter of fact, I have a book that I am in the process of writing called God, It's Not Working, right? What one man found that makes everything work. There's such a movement going on in the universe today. We know that. There's a spiritual movement. The New Age movement started. Then it's now the New Thought movement. And it's about understanding that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So there's 1,000,001 books out there. The self-help and spiritual book publishing business gains about $2.5 billion annually, and that's increasing with all the metaphysical stuff that they're selling for people to grow. So people are taking classes, people are buying books, people are going to expos, people are going to all these conferences all over the world, and still end up saying, after they try everything, the law of abundance, the law of attraction, the law of this, the law of that, and they still end up saying, God, it's not working. And it has nothing to do with the information.
Right.
It has to do with the key element that makes everything you attempt work is 100% unconditional self-belief and self-love. It's like trying to bake a cake, going out and getting all these incredible organic ingredients, using all the right utensils, putting them in a wonderful baker, sticking it in an expensive oven.
Right.
But unless you do the most important thing first, you will never have any of those ingredients turn into a cake. And that is preheat the oven and turn the heat on.
Right.
Self-belief is the heat and the process that makes all the ingredients that you're using work.
Right. Absolutely. So that's
not
step one. It's not step one. That is basically the process from the beginning.
That is the process that makes it all work. Absolutely. That's great to look at it that way.
So if you had one kind of broad advice for people, that would be it, basically, to believe in yourself starting today, every day, for the rest of your life.
Okay. That would sound really simplified, believe in yourself. A matter of fact, when I was coming up with this work, and my wife and I were talking all the time about it, and she said just the same as I, Vinny, that sounds so trite. Nobody is going to believe that that's the be-all, end-all, and yet it is the be-all, end-all. Here's the problem, Joe. Most people don't believe what they think they believe. So therefore, you can't just spend every day believing in yourself. You have to spend every day figuring out what it is you really do believe. And you've got to remove the blocks and the denials and the defense mechanisms in order to do that. I have a great workshop. It's called God, It's Not Working, based on my book. And the actual CD and digital audio is available on my website.
Okay.
That breaks down the reason why you've been fooling yourself. And also another one is called Stop Stopping Yourself and Become Unstoppable. Those two together explain the entire process of how we've been BSing ourselves most of our lives because we're trying desperately to hide the real beliefs we have about ourselves. Now, those aren't truths, but those are maladaptive beliefs we formed at a very young age because of the way the environment treated us.
Right.
And we've held on to those beliefs. And here's the funny thing about that most people don't understand. Whatever beliefs you first formed in your childhood or that were formed for you, you spend your adulthood creating new beliefs as a defense mechanism to just protect you against those beliefs. But those beliefs are the ones that are truly guiding you. And that's what most people don't want to admit or tap into. So when you're applying for a job and you don't get it, or you're sending out your resume and you don't get called, or you're trying to date and have a romance and you can't find the right guy or the right girl, yes, you can blame everything and everyone you want. Those are the defense mechanisms you created. But the true underlying belief is you don't believe you're lovable. You don't believe you deserve the promotion or the good job. All of those are the true beliefs that are manifesting our lives, because the law of attraction is based on your inner core beliefs, not your conscious mind beliefs.
And inner core,
And
is that
so,
more located in the heart, or is this the subconscious mind?
no, unconscious mind.
Unconscious.
Unconscious mind. Your heart is your soul's mind. Okay, that's connected directly to your soul. It's your intuition, it's your gut feeling. It's why the solar plexus is your third spiritual center, and it's right below your heart. So your gut feeling will come into your solar plexus, and it's our job to move it to heart-based feeling, which is your true inner core beliefs. Everything else is down in the unconscious mind, or I call it actually the environmental made mind, and another mind called the adult made minds. That is where you process most of your current beliefs. You're not processing it from your real true soul's mind, which is the reason why you don't believe what you think you believe. It's why people can go to church and be so Christian or think that they're Christian and yet carry a shotgun in their car just in case somebody winds up coming onto their property.
Right,
So
absolutely.
that they can shoot them, right? It's why you have all of these people walking one way but saying something else.
Right.
Because it's not that they're just making up the BS consciously. They truly think they believe in themselves.
Right.
As a hospice social worker, I dealt with helping over 500 patients transition to the other side. When you're in that position, especially as a psychic, you get to really see and feel and hear what people have been believing in all their lives, because you will die the way you live. Okay. So all of these people who walk through their lives, especially down here in the South, which is the Bible Belt, thinking that they were such strong Christians,
Right.
they had not one Christian belief when it came down to the fact that they were now going to die.
Right.
And it went right out the window. So all the stuff that they thought they believed, they never believed in to start with. It was all made up. Our minds will do that. It
Right.
will make up beliefs just to get you coping through life, not living life, but coping through life.
The power of the mind, huh? Our best friend and our worst enemy.
Well, it is. It's who we are. It's
Right.
why we can manifest and create, why the placebo effect works so well. All right, is because you can convince yourself of anything and everything.
Amazing stuff. So I know we have to go pretty soon here. Is there any last thoughts or anything that you want to share? Any upcoming events or work or anything like that? We'll also post it in the link section below so people can contact you and your events directly. But is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we go?
Well, I am traveling around the country, so one of the best ways to know where I am is to check out my website. I try to keep it updated as much as possible. So come see an event of mine. You'll have an incredible experience. Like I said, some of the workshops I already do are available on digital download. Not to mention, I have a lot of media interviews, such as this one that we're doing right now, that has such great information in it that people can really hear and start tapping into and doing some work so that they can help heal themselves. But the bottom line is, it's all about you. It's whatever you create in your life, whatever you're manifesting, it's all about you. You're the one that is creating it, causing it, bringing it into your life. You cannot blame anybody. We are not victims to anything. And victimness and being in control of your life are mutually exclusive. They do not get along together. You can't have both in the same life.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing random about life. That's what the proof of the universe is all about. Everything is in perfect order, including you. So once you start believing that and accepting responsibility for your lives, you can create the life you want. Yes, it's as painful as hell to believe you're the one that manifested your disease. You're the one that manifested that relationship that caused abuse. You're the one that caused yourself to lose your job. Yes, that's painful. But you know what? I'd rather know that I caused it, because then I can be the one to heal it. So that's the primary message I want to leave everybody. I do private readings. 99% of my readings are by phone. So again, you can connect with me through my website at vincentgenna.com. That's going to be the best way to communicate with me. But I hope to see some of your listeners and viewers out there, and tell them to come on up to me and say hello and introduce themselves to me when I'm in one of their locations. And thank you so much, Joe, for having me here.